A good day to developers and industry professionals. I am Lim Wei Jie from LTA Development and Building Control Subgroup. Today I'll be sharing with you the streamlined handling and taking over process for new streets. Within this presentation, I'll be covering two main aspects. First, I will be giving an overview on LTA's Certificate of Statutory Completion, also known as CSC, as well as the handling and taking over of new streets. In the second part of my presentation, I'll be sharing in greater detail the streamlined processes for handling and taking over of new streets, and how this enhanced process will benefit developers and industry professionals. For development projects involving street works, submissions are required to be made to LTA at various regulatory stages for clearance. At the development control stage, or DC stage, the architectural details and general layout of street features are submitted for evaluation and clearance. Upon LTA's issuance of a development control clearance, industry professionals will submit the engineering details and technical designs of street features at the street plan stage, also known as the building plan or BP stage. These details are required to be finalized before works may proceed on site. Upon the completion of physical works on site, industry professionals can make an application for LTA's Certificate of Statutory Completion. LTA will carry out site inspections for the completed works and issue a CSC when the completed works are deemed satisfactory. For works involving major road improvements, the construction of new streets, pedestrian overhead bridges, and underpass networks, LTA will administer a 12-month maintenance period, or MEP for short, upon the issuance of the CSC clearance. During the MEP, the developer will maintain the completed road and facilities and ensure that all latent defects are rectified accordingly. Upon the expiry of the 12-month MEP, the constructed road facilities will then be handed over and transferred to LTA. The current CSC and handling and taking over process for the new street is shown within this slide. Upon the completion of the physical works, industry professional will make an application to LTA under Certificate of Statutory Completion stage. Upon receiving a CSC application, LTA will arrange for a joint site inspection. If further rectification of works are needed on site, LTA will issue a written direction to advise industry professionals to carry out the necessary works. LTA's CSC clearance will only be issued when all defects on site have been rectified accordingly. For new streets constructed by private developers, the security deposit will be reduced upon the issuance of the CSC clearance. At the end of the 12-month MEP, QP will then initiate a handling and taking over application to LTA and furnish the supporting documents for asset handover. A second round of joint site inspection will also be called to ensure that all latent defects have been rectified accordingly. Upon the completion of the defects rectification and the furnishing of documents, the asset will be handed over to LTA for management. For private developers, the security deposit will then be fully released. If not properly managed, it is possible for the current CSC and handing over and taking over process to span beyond 20 months. This may adversely impact the development project timeline and result in an increase of costs for the project parties. To address the challenges faced by the industry, LTA will be introducing a streamlined handling and taking over process for new streets in the late second quarter of 2022. This new process is characterized by three main phases, which mirrors the current CSC, MEP, and taking over stage. In phase 1, upon the completion of physical works on site, industry professionals notify LTA their intention to open the new street to public. LTA will carry out the independent checks on and issue an acknowledgement letter if there are no safety critical defects identified on site. Upon LTA's acknowledgement, the new street is then open to public and MEP commences. For new street constructed by private developers, The security deposit will be reduced upon LTA's acknowledgement. During the first 6 months of MEP or Phase 2, the QP shall proactively ensure that latent defects that surface during this period are rectified accordingly. The handling and taking over processes of the street are initiated during Phase 3, which commences from the 6th month of the MEP. At the 6th month of MEP, industry professionals shall make a taking over application to LTA. If an application is not received, LTA will issue a reminder through CORNET. During Phase 3, LTA will carry out independent site inspections for common road facilities such as footpaths, curbs, road pavements, as well as structural layouts of commuter facilities. A joint site inspection will only be called if QP's presence is necessary, for instance, to access specific areas which are not easily accessible, or to inspect or for the inspection of E&M facilities. QP should ensure that supporting documents are submitted as a whole package and to ensure that any defects identified during site inspections are rectified expeditiously. As soon as defects rectification works are completed and supporting documents are in order, LTA will proceed to take over the road asset. For streets constructed by private developers, the security deposit will be fully released. Through the streamlined handling and taking over process, industry professionals can look forward to the following. At the notification to open new streets phase or Phase 1, as well as the taking over phase, Phase 3, the need for joint site inspection has been largely removed and replaced with independent site inspections by LTA. This significantly reduces the amount of coordination required to obtain common availabilities amongst various project parties, allowing site inspections to be conducted swiftly. LTA will proactively remind QPs to initiate a handling and taking over application at the 6th month of the MEP. These early reminders can cater sufficient lead time for defects rectification, submission of documents, and asset transfer process. All in all, the industry can look forward to a significantly shorter road handing over process, with a combined time saving of around 6 to 7 months. This slide recaps the key activities which will take place across the various phases. In the following slides, we will be covering the processes within each phase in a greater detail, focusing on the documents to be submitted. For information on the acceptable construction standards, common defects, and good practices, please refer to other presentation videos of the seminar. In Phase 1, when physical works on site has been completed, industry professionals should notify LTA their intention to open the street to public at least 1 or 2 months prior to the road opening date. 1 month for new streets without active mobility facilities such as cycling path, and 2 months for new streets with active mobility facilities. The additional time required is to cater for the gazetting process of the active mobility infrastructure. For example, if the QP intends to open a new street to public on 1st June 2022, he should make his submission on 1st May 2022 for the new street if there are no active mobility infrastructure. If there is active mobility infrastructure on site, he should make a submission on 1st April 2022. Industry professionals shall notify LTA via CORNET. The application shall be made under Application Type 6, Notification of Opening of New Streets to Traffic. Within the CORNET Internet form, a list of documents and their respective naming conventions will be specified. Please ensure that the relevant documents with the appropriate file names are submitted. In cases where the naming conventions are not followed, the submission may be deemed as an incomplete submission and resubmission will be required. In the next few slides, I will go through each of the documents to be submitted in Phase 1 as well as their respective naming conventions. When making a notification application to LTA to open new streets, industry professionals should submit: number 1, a cover letter clearly stating the opening date of the new street in PDF format titled Cover Letter. The street and building names board approval for the new street in PDF format titled Street Name Approval Letter. The approved traffic layout plan in DWG format titled Approved Traffic Plan Layout. A certificate of supervision by the PE in PDF format titled Certificate of Supervision. A set of road test results in PDF format titled Road Test Results. A checklist of the completed works in PDF format with the title reflecting the purpose of the document. A set of photographs showing the completed works compiled within a PDF document and with a title reflecting the purpose of the document. I will now move on to Phase 3, where the industry professionals will make an application to LTA for the handling and taking over of road assets during the 6th month of MEP. The documents to be submitted at Phase 3 are similar to the current practice, and there will not be a need for a specific naming convention. However, QPs are still recommended to name the files in a proper convention to prevent any confusion during the submissions. The documents to be submitted at Phase 3 are as follows. Number 1, a complete set of as-built survey plans in true coordinates of SVY21 datum. A letter of taking over from PUB Drainage, NEA, and MParks. A coloured copy of the declaration plan, a copy of the approved subdivision plan, a copy of the certified plan from Chief Surveyor SLA, one set of road data form, one set of asset form, and a copy of the audit certificate for projects funded by ministries, indicating the value of the assets to be transferred. For new streets constructed by statutory boards and government ministries, LTA has developed a checklist for project parties to provide relevant information of the constructed road assets. This would speed up the transfer of these assets. This checklist will be incorporated in LTA's acknowledgement and the reminder letters, which are issued at the end of Phase 1 and the beginning of Phase 3. Industry professionals working under these projects are urged to work closely with their developing statutory boards and ministries to obtain the relevant information as early as possible. This would cater sufficient lead time for the transfer of assets during the handing over phase. For more information regarding the handing and taking over processes, please refer to the Code of Practice for street work proposal related to development works, which can be located within our corporate website, lta.gov.sg. Thank you.